We do all kinds of things here at Word in Your Ear.
We do podcasts.
We do videocasts.
Quizzes.
Crowdcasts with famous authors.
And we can guarantee to make your next birthday one you will never forget.
There's only one way to make sure you get all of this, you get it in full, and you get it first.
And that's by becoming a supporter on Patreon.
Details here.
Word in Your Attic, a Zoom with a view.
It's another Word in Your Attic where we are delighted to be joined by a long-serving and hugely significant music writer and broadcaster. In fact, the man who Dave and I firmly believe was the first person to review what we can call popular music in any of the British newspapers. So come on down, the great Robin Denselow.
Good night,
Robin,
Dave.
lovely to see you. It was you, wasn't it? Because Dave, we were convinced that apart from Robin Denselow in The Guardian, nobody else in the newspapers ever wrote about rock music till the mid-80s.
There weren't very many. There was Geoffrey Cannon, one or two others. But even The Guardian were very hard to persuade. I was started off writing about folk music, because folk music did it okay. And I was a big folk music fan. And it was.
And what year was that? That's what was that? Early 70s? When was that?
No, before that.
Before
that. As I was at uni from till 67. I started writing The Guardian when I was at uni. I was writing stuff for university papers. And they took a few folk pieces, and I was a very bad folk singer. And I was playing at the Beauty Folk Festival and rang up and said, "Oh," and there were lots of great people on the bill. So said, "Why don't I review it?" And they said, "Who are you?" And I said, "You don't know, but I'll send you a piece." And they printed it. And after that, they kept printing pieces. And then when the Doors came to London for the Roundhouse show, whenever that was, I said, "Can we do the Doors?" And they said,
and they said, "Are they folk?" And you said, "Oh, yes."
Exactly, absolutely right. You guessed. You got my punchline.
Oh, sorry.
I said, "Well, they're sort of folk. I mean, yes, they're modern folk. It's okay. In that case, you can have 150 words."
150 words.
God, a paragraph.
That's 1968, isn't it? Presumably.
Yeah, that's right. It would have been. Yes, right. Yeah. Mm.
That's extraordinary to reflect, really. That The Guardian, the one with the sort of youngest profile of the broadsheets in those days, I would have thought, still had to be convinced that there was a place for rock music. It's extraordinary, really.
It was they were a bit slow catching on, I'm afraid, but they got there in the end. And after that, they just gave me everything. And, and there was
but I think it was Live Aid, funnily enough, in the mid-80s that was the big pivot, because that's when all the newspapers realised the scale of interest in rock music and the possible commercial potential in covering it. And after that, they all had kind of gossip columns and regular reviewers.
No, I mean, Guardian now got about, 10 different loads of reviewers. But at that stage, it was just me, and I was working for the BBC anyway, so it's my sort of night job. I was extraordinarily lucky. There was no one else around doing it, and they gave me everything. I had sort of great jazz singers, great blues singers, great music, and it was the 70s, so you got great trips around the place. Do you want to come see the Grateful Dead? Do you want to go to the Who's launch party in LA one weekend and then come back and do Panorama again on Monday? So it was a very wild time. It's brilliant.
Very good.
Fantastic. Good. Well, look, you've got an updated version of your book, Electric Muse, out, which we will talk about now, with a box set attached. But we need to go back, don't we, Dave, to the early days and any memories of the music that was playing in your household when you were growing up and the equipment that it was playing on. Can you remember the kind of stuff your parents would play?
We didn't have a television. I lived in Donegan, which is a little village. It was now part of a suburb, I guess, but was then regarded itself as a village on the Surrey-Kent border. My mum listened to a bit of classical music. She had I forget what sort of old-fashioned sort of, exactly what it was, I don't remember. But the first single I bought, I think was Tommy Steele's Rock with the Caveman.
Brilliant.
Upset my parents a lot. I was like the title. I hadn't heard it, but somebody told me about it. But then after that, I became a massive skiffle fan and a big Donegan fan, and so I got everything I could find of his.
Wasn't Rock with the Caveman written by Lionel Bart?
It may well have been.
I think it was.
You'll know much more about it than I do, I'm sure.
I think it was. So,
were you in a skiffle band?
Yeah. What did you play?
I played guitar.
Right.
I was a bad folk singer. I wanted to be Woody Guthrie and Leadbelly. I listened to all of that stuff. Started writing songs and annoyed my friends like mad by plonking away and singing silly songs at them. But
can you remember any of your song titles?
Yes, it was slightly supposed to be humorous. There was the East Croydon Blues, at the Bewley Folk Festival in '66, probably. Where one of the judges who gave me second prize, only second prize passed, in the New Singers Contest, with a certain Carl Dallas, with whom I wrote a book, which
absolutely.
So that was all very bizarre. So I was really into folk music in a huge way.
So give us a picture of the Bewley Folk Festival in, what do you say, 1966? This is the grounds of a stately home, is it?
The Lord, my Lord and Lady of Bewley, they had a stately home and they had a festival going outside, and they had the Dubliners. I forget who was playing. I'm sorry, not one of the things I've got the details of. But
right. Okay, well, carry on. What do you remember from those days? Have you kept any of the stuff from those days?
Yeah, well, I remember the first music I really made a huge impact for me. I spent a year in a refugee camp in Burundi after leaving school. I remember sitting in a grass hut listening to this extraordinary stuff coming across from Africa all around me. I hadn't a clue what it was. Well, I was trying to get the radio to listen to the Stones and just do anything from the BBC. I got this amazing Congolese stuff coming out, which I assume was Franco and people like that, which I'll talk about later. And then when I got back to London, I think the first concert I went to was the Glad Rag Ball, which was November the 20th, 1964, with a fine at the Empire Pool, Wembley.
The Empire Pool.
The Animals, Long John Baldry, Humphrey Lyttelton, the Miami Show Band, Julie Rogers, Jimmy Savile, we won't mention, Rolling Stones, The Pretty Things, Gene Vincent, and Cyril Stapleton in his orchestra playing in the middle of that.
Were they all on one bill?
That's
all on one bill. All night, I think.
So presumably started kind of 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and they got 4 tracks each, or 4 numbers each.
Here that breakfast is served at Lyons Corner House, Piccadilly, from 6 o'clock until 8 for those who wanted to make it back into town. So it was probably a first all-nighter.
That's brilliant.
That is absolutely
that's 90. Hold that up again, Robin. So that was 1964. That's amazing.
And I love the idea you've still got part of the old world, the people like sort of Humphrey Lyttelton's band, playing on the next door to the Animals. It's brilliant.
Right. So you've got the Stones here, for instance, on one page.
Yeah.
And a Stones photo I must have acquired around the same sort of time. I'm not sure.
Right.
And then the Julie Rogers and Cyril Stapleton band on the next page.
Julie Rogers, she had a hit with The Wedding.
That's right.
Anybody less rootsy, it would be difficult to imagine than Julie Rogers and Cyril Stapleton. To be fair,
but it was a weird scene at that stage.
Yeah, absolutely,
what the hell was going on?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And what else do I get to show? Yeah. Well, going to folk music. I was a huge fan of folk, as I say, and I started being a student journalist. Actually, I won't go back and do it all.
Yeah, go in your own time.
We've got all day.
So that we can't you rambling on. It's too early in the morning. And as a student journalist, I just got back from Burundi and wondering what on earth to do with myself. I thought I'd try writing a few bits. And there's a bloke coming into town who I admired absolutely enormously, called Bob Dylan.
Oh, right.
I listened to his stuff. I thought this guy's extraordinary because everything I'd been trying to do is a pathetic folk singer blonking away, but writing interesting lyrics. And he was
what year are we talking about here?
I'm now talking about 63, 65. We're talking about.
Right, yeah.
And so I thought I'd try and blag my way to go and see him and try to get a ticket. And so I wanted to write about it from the uni paper. And to my amazement, I got back a letter, which is this one here, which it comes from Kenneth Pitt Limited Publicists.
Oh, David Bowie's first
campus. It was.
35 Mayfair. And it says, an invitation. You're cordially invited to meet Bob Dylan in the Manhattan room of the Savoy Hotel, River Entrance, on Tuesday, the 27th of April at 3 p.m.
Fantastic. Did you go?
And I assume you were there.
Did I go? It'd be silly.
So what? Literally, any amount of detail we want to hear. I mean, were there loads of other journalists, and so it was just literally just met him?
That Don't Look Back was being filmed when everyone.
It was. It's where those famous pictures of Bob Dylan and Joan Baez.
Joan Baez was there, indeed,
taken in the garden at the back of the Savoy.
I'd never been to apart from the Rolling Stones thing and the Beatles I'd been to one of those shows at Hammersmith. I'd never been to a press event like this before. I'd never met anyone like Dylan before. I didn't know what to expect. I was 19-year-old, 20-year-old. I sort of staggered in, looking very wide-eyed. And Dylan staggered in, and everyone was slightly, no one knew what to make of him at all. I mean, you'll see the film, and he didn't like read him or make much of anybody himself at all. But I managed to wham a few questions at him and spent most of my time talking to Joan Baez, so I liked him enormously and was much more easy to talk to. She was just there accompanying him. She wasn't playing. So I scribbled a few notes, and amazingly, in an old notebook, I found the notebook I've...
No!
Oh, this is brilliant.
Which has got notes in it, and on this side here...
Was that an autograph?
Joan Baez at the top and Dylan at the bottom.
Oh, very good.
Absolutely brilliant.
Now, I don't go around asking for autographs. I think it's probably the only one I've ever done in my life. But
you're allowed.
Extremely proud to have found that one.
That's amazing.
What sort of things have you written down? So those are just the quotes and stuff, are they?
It says, what do you say? Dylan, my second name. I changed it when I was 17. I want to meet Christine Keeler. I'm going to see Lennon for supper tonight. I like the Animals and the Beatles. Who's this Donovan chap? Let's get him on the wall. Who's that guy behind you? Is he a cop? I didn't do shorthand or anything. I didn't have a tape recorder.
Yeah.
Well, probably. And I wrote a piece for the Uni paper, which went down very well. And after that, they said, "Oh, you're a great music writer. You can do anything you want to." So.
Let's be clear about this. You started at the top in terms of interviews, did you? It's been completely downhill.
I've never done such a most important man in my musical life, and I started with him. It's
that's absolutely extraordinary. You're not on the film then?
I made very sure I wasn't. I could, even at that age, I could tell that anyone appearing.
That's a man with a future in television. He knows how to keep out the picture.
Stay out the camera, ask the questions. Let the cameraman get the pictures.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's
incredible.
Night, I went to see him at the Albert Hall, and they gave me a cheap ticket at the very, very top, the balcony at the Albert Hall.
Oh, really at the top?
Really, really at the top, yeah. And there's this tiny figure on stage.
You can only see the top of his head anyway, because you're vertically above him, aren't you? Really,
absolutely spellbinding. I think probably one of the best concerts I've ever been to, and I'd never seen anything like that. And so,
right,
that was amazing. I didn't think I'd got this still. Thanks to you, I'm looking up through.
That is astonishing.
We're providing a social service in this difficult time.
Yes. Have you got any of the old singles you bought and all that kind of stuff?
I have got them. They're in the garage. I haven't got them here.
Okay, oh, don't worry.
Okay.
There's an album around this time, which is actually the year before while I was at uni. Which I think is the most important album in British music history.
Oh, yes.
Oh, right.
Which is
there's a beautiful original cover there.
Yeah, Hairs on the Mountain and all that. It's fantastic, isn't
it? That's right. Yes. Shirley Collins and Davey Graham, which was one of the great experimental folk album of its day, in that people have been singing folk songs and singing American folk songs, but Shirley was a fantastic English folk singer, as you know, who'd been in America, and along with her straightforward traditional singing, she was persuaded by her husband, Austin John Marshall, to team up with a mate of his, Davey Graham. And they did this first fusion record of blues and North African stuff, because Davey used to wander off to Morocco and places, and mixed with English folk music. And it worked amazingly. And that was a template, if you like, for, folk rock, which came a bit later on, and then all the different folk experiments that followed. But I think
so presumably in those days, when you were kicking around that scene must have been really tiny. It was a handful of people, presumably, was it?
Yeah, quite small, but it was the Cousins Folk Club, place like that. And I got to meet Shirley because a nice summer holidays, I managed to blag myself a job at the Observer on doing a little briefing page they have for the arts. And I got there and one guy said, "Don't touch film, I don't do film." Another guy said, "Don't touch classical music, don't touch theatre." So fine.
Friendly old journalistic fraternity.
I thought, well, what's left? I'll do folk music.
Right.
And so I wrote a tiny, this much appeared a briefing guide to what was on. And after it appeared, a guy bounded into the office saying, "Hello, I'm a designer on the paper. My name's Austin John Marshall," which I'd heard of because he was the husband of Shirley Collins. He said, "Come and meet Shirley." And went off to see Shirley at home in Blackheath and became quite good friends. I was down there a few days later and a very battered old car. She said, "I'm playing in somewhere out in the West Country tonight. And the car's broken down. The guys taking me down there can't do it. Will you be our roadie?" So I had a very battered old Citroen. So my first I had roadieing job, taking Shirley and her sister Dolly Collins down to a gig with Dolly's flute organ stuck in the back of the car, desperately hoping my ancient Citroen de Chevaux wouldn't break down.
De Chevaux, that's brilliant.
So that's my only roadieing experience. But I was proud of that one.
So you drove a band to a gig in a 2CV.
Yes, I did.
Okay. I did the same thing many years later.
Who was that?
That was when I worked for Berkeley Records. I used to take the Rubenews and Greg Kinn to gigs in the only car we had, which was a 2CV.
Oh, really?
God bless the 2CV.
No amplifiers, presumably. Just
no. Well, it was electric. It kind of plugged in. I think she had. Dolly played a. Do you remember those records she made for Harvest?
She played a water harp or something, didn't she? Yes, that's right.
It was a medieval flute organ, reconstructed with an electric motor. So you shouldn't have to pump it in, I think. So, but it was a lovely noise.
Right.
And then she acquired an English ancient early music band and became a sort of rather trendy underground band signed to EMI's Harvest label.
Right.
Anyway, it didn't break down. Just terrified of being stuck on a motorway with Shirley, my heroine, in the car, and her sister Dolly, and not getting her to the gig. But
have you still been in touch with her recently over your book?
I talked to her yesterday, as it turned out.
Right.
I'm going to see her I can see her on Sunday. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Did you ever interview Davey Graham, who I absolutely adore? He was obviously such a complicated guy, and it all fizzled out, didn't it?
Yeah. I used to have... sorry, I'm rambling. I used to have a house. No. I'm in Kentish Town. I used to have a little house back in Oak Village, which I bought because it was extremely cheap and had a toilet in the back garden and... managed to get a grant to the Alex Harvey band. Remember, they came around and helped me smash up the toilet for a barrel of a crate of beer. Anyway, in the house there, Davey lived down in Camden Town. He used to wander up occasionally. And one day he came up and he was sitting in the garden playing extraordinary mixture of a bit of classical stuff and a bit of blues and a bit of North African stuff, a bit of monk and goodness knows what. And a house at the end of the garden that caught fire. And there were flames going out, and then sort of vans and fire engines turning up, all that sort of stuff. And Davey's so lost in what he was doing, he just kept playing and ignored this ridiculous scene about 100 yards ago of a house up in flames. I saw him many times. I wish I'd recorded his recording there. He was playing there. It was an amazing afternoon.
That's incredible.
When did he die?
Oh, I went to his funeral.
2013, something like that, wasn't it? Not long ago.
Oh, so it's not that long ago.
I'm bad at dates for those sort of
Right. Oh, he was incredibly influential. I mean, in that kind of, before people coined the term kind of world music, he was one of the first people, wasn't he, playing all those beautiful Eastern scales?
Yeah. Exactly. And on the box set of the album, which comes out with the Electric Muse, which I certainly won't plug anymore. But
do it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Do it.
Plug away.
The box set's coming out in June, middle of June. And Justin Adams, you know Justin?
Yeah.
Guys who plays with Robert Plant, people like that. People often who does a lot of North African stuff. People ask him where do he get his influences from, and apparently he always says Davey Graham. So when we were doing the set, he got in contact. Well, he knows a guy called David James of IRL, who was helping me with a with the album. David looks after him, and said, can I help in any way? And he suggested recording a version of She Moves Through the Fair, which is a Davey favourite song, on electric guitar as a tribute to Davey. So,
all right,
that's great.
So the Electric Muse first came out in the late 70s?
75.
75.
Yeah,
75.
And it was divided up to, there's four of you, wasn't there? It was Carl Dallas and Dave Lang and Robert Shelton.
That's
Sadly,
right.
I think you're the only one still with us, actually. But you all had a subsection each, didn't you?
I came out in 75, and I was working for Panorama by then as a producer and running around the world. It was a year in which Vietnam fell, so I was in Saigon. Then I got locked up in Angola, and it was they asked me to write a chapter. I had a weekend off, and I had bashed it out and gave it to them. And I confess, I rather forgot all about it. And I was away somewhere mad if they had a launch party, and came back and found there was a 4 vinyl set that went with it. That was selling incredibly well. The whole thing kind of took off. But it was Dave's idea and the rest of them. I was sort of junior thing, and much in awe of Robert Shelton, who was the guy, of course, who discovered Dylan and used to go around with Dylan went around with a Shelton cutting in his pocket for many years. Well,
that's right.
So, I'd forgotten all about it. I was very honoured to be on it with those great writers who I liked enormously. And then I was rung up and told that Omnibus wanted to republish it, and the rest of them I knew had sadly died, and would I bring it up to date? And
you said that one of the catalysts, I think, in your intro was going to see Richard Thompson, I think his 70th birthday party at the Albert Hall, is that right?
Yeah,
and, and obviously David Gilmour was there, and Hugh Cornwall, who was in a band with the school, and all the old folk rock aristocracy. And that was a moment when you thought, this is all still very much thriving and should be updated.
Yes, well, it is. Well, I wasn't sure what to do with it, really, but then thought, what's happened since? Because folk rock kind of collapsed, and then it knocked out by punk, and then Billy Bragg helped bring it back, and the Oyster Band brought it back in a sort of punked up fashion. And then Eliza Carthy, of course, picked it up and did all sorts of amazing things, picking up from her dad's tradition. And then you had bands like the Imagined Village with Simon Emerson, doing folk with, quote unquote, word term we're not supposed to use anymore, world music, which I adored. Hello, Meme. Sorry, the cat's just moved.
I know. We're so impressed, by the way. Is it Mimi? Your cat has been positioned behind you, and clearly rules the roost.
She supervised. She actually gets credit on the album for supervision.
So why are we not supposed to say world music anymore? I missed this.
I don't know. The Guardian called it global sounds apparently these days.
Sounds like a travel.
What's wrong with world music? What's wrong with that term?
I don't know. I won't go into that.
No, fair enough.
So presumably, Nebby, it's quite interesting that you've seen, it's all very similar music, but you've seen it called loads of different things, haven't you?
Yeah,
I can remember when I worked in HV, they didn't have a world music section. They had an international music section.
That's right, yes.
That's just what it was called. And so French stuff would be alongside African stuff and Indian stuff or whatever. It was stuff that was not English or American.
That's right.
Basically.
Well, it was a marketing ploy. I think
it is. All this
it was a very good ploy as well.
There was a meeting in 1987, I think, wasn't there? Roger Armstrong, Ian Anderson, exactly. And they came up with that. Charlie
Gillett was there, I think. Lots of great guys. And they came up with a marketing ploy somewhere in the rack. So you had, you didn't, if you were looking for, some Bulgarian.
It's kind of non-European music, not sung in English, I suppose you could say. Something like that.
It could be European. It's non-English, I think.
Non-English could be European. No, not Central European.
You used to find that the people who bought that kind of music when I worked in a record shop were people who come from those countries.
Yeah.
Or their parents had come from those countries. That was the interest was restricted to those people.
Right.
Wasn't anybody beyond that. That changed over a period of time.
Indeed.
Go on.
Sorry, as indeed still happens with, bands from different places come over, and you get in London, you get a Greek audience going to see a Greek band, or a South African audience going to see Johnny Clegg when he was alive, which most British fans didn't know about. And so things go on. Sorry, I was interrupting you.
No, I wasn't going anywhere in particular. What else you got there to show us? Anything else?
Well, I suppose the link between folk in Africa and rock in Africa was the guy I admired most in the 70s, who of course was Bob Marley. And on my wall I have one of my proudest possessions, which is this thing here.
All right. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Which is a legend, yes.
The Marley gold disc.
Right.
What was your contribution to its success?
It's presented to me, it says at the bottom, which I always thought was really a scandal, because I didn't even play on it. I mean, it's a scandal. I think there was a guy called Rob Partridge. Remember Rob?
Oh, yeah, very fond in Ireland. Yeah,
we went on lots of Marley adventures together, and I think it was because I'd actually started reviewing him very, very early on. I think I reviewed Marley first in August '73, which was very early when he was playing.
That is early. Yeah, where was that?
The Speakeasy Club.
Oh, wow.
When Catch a Fire came out, he didn't have his wild dreads quite as well that day. He was very smooth. I think he was still influenced a bit by soul singers. I did, American
Johnny Nash and all that stuff.
Johnny Nash, exactly, precisely. And I like the album Catch a Fire a lot.
Yeah.
And I read a review, and I was a bit disappointed by him, I must confess. He was not what I expected, and it was a bad venue for him. He probably didn't like the people.
No,
the speakers, it was called. It was a kind of, it was a fire rock and roll hangout.
Where was that review published then?
Sorry,
where did your review come out?
73, Guardian.
The Guardian, right?
Yeah,
well, that would have been very influential. I mean, that stage, most of us I hadn't really heard of him at all around.
And then he came back and I'm going through all my cuttings. I used to keep my cuttings in piles and piles and be trying to put them together over lockdown. I think I saw him next to the Lyceum in July '75.
Oh, I was there.
Dave was there, yeah.
You were probably there, yeah.
I was. That was something else, wasn't it? Because that was like something from Mars. That was you'd never heard anything like that before.
Exactly.
I don't know if you felt like that, but it was an extraordinary, magical thing that was.
He was,
and thankfully, thankfully captured on, on record.
Absolutely, one of the great live records.
Yeah.
And by then he discovered his image, he discovered his identity, really, and he discovered what he was.
Yeah.
From then onwards, he just, extraordinary.
Yeah.
So,
because it was just, what were we saying, Mark, the other day? Was it 40 years since he died the other day?
Yeah, he died. It was May the 11th, I think, 1981. We talked about it on our podcast. I mean, and really young. I mean, I think he was 36, 37 when he died. Yeah. It's appalling, really.
Yeah. No, I went to the funeral.
That must have been interesting.
It was, yes. No, it was.
Did anybody play at the funeral?
No, the funeral. I was just joined a program called Newsnight that had just started.
Yeah.
After being on Panorama, and the editor said, well, we can do a few music things on this. We just don't have to be just politics. You do a bit of music, don't you? I said, yeah, I quite like it. He said, do you want to think of some ideas? And when Marley died, I thought, let a picture to him, look at a bit of politics, music, great man. I'd been to the Peace concert in Kingston when he brought the rival gangs together, which was an amazing event. And I'd seen him several times. I said, look, I think we can do it. And so they said, okay, you can have a film crew, but one from America. We can't give you a producer. Go and do it by yourself, will you? And so I said, fine. I was fine. And it was, they said, go out there and bring it back to straight afterwards. So I went, sat on the plane, waiting to fly to Kingston. And the captain said, sorry, the engine problem. We're not going for 7 hours, but we can't leave the plane. So we're stuck on the plane. It came very, very late. And there was some rastas at the back of the plane who were about to go for the funeral. So I was talking to them. They were kind of skinning up about it at the back of the plane. And
on the plane?
Yeah.
Well, in those days.
You could smoke. That's right.
You're in the smoking section.
Yeah.
The stewardess kept knocking on the shoulder and said, excuse me, the captain wants a word with you. This is not good. BBC producer, not. Of course, I was just talking to them. I went to see the captain. He said, look, I'm very sorry about this Reggie chap who's died. I assume you're the manager and they're a band. Will you ask them not to riot? I said, don't be stupid. They're not going to riot. Don't be stupid. He said, oh, that's fine. So eventually we got to Kingston, and it was now about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I had to interview Siaga, the Prime Minister, and Manley, the leader of the opposition, at 7 or 8 o'clock before the funeral started, in about 3 or 4 hours' time, and find my cameraman. And I was stuck at Kingston Airport. There's no sign of any taxis or anything like that. So I found the reggae band, or as they were indeed. I said, well, how are you getting to town? They said, oh, we got a bus, man. Come with us, come with us. And I said, look, do you mind? I'm absolutely knackered. I've got to interview the Prime Minister in about 3 hours' time, and I'm not feeling good. Will you take me straight to my hotel? I said, yeah, man, no, man, I'll take you straight to the hotel. We got an old bus that staggered down the road towards Kingston. And after about a mile, they stopped. I said, where are we going? Oh, we're just going to visit some friends.
Oh, God.
We got to the bus and...
You're panicking by now.
I was panicking, and there was a large party going on. And somebody gave me a joint about this big and said, oh, fine, thank you very much. And I said, no, man, no, that's for you personal. For you personal. So I had to try and pretend to smoke an entire joint, knowing I had to meet the Prime Minister in a few hours' time.
As a representative of the BBC as well.
It's interesting. You balance being a music journalist and being okay. And got to the hotel like about 4 o'clock in the morning and saw an apparition of a guy with a camera going wee around the hotel on roller skates. And I thought, this is bad. I'm hallucinating. This is not good. And it turned out the cameraman who was
your crew.
It was the cameraman, a hippie from Miami, who was practicing tracking shots where you move the camera in the hotel lobby, having just arrived. So we got all right and had a very, very, very long cold shower. I went off to interview Siaga and Manley and the funeral, which was held in the National Stadium, where there were huge crowds outside. Marley was laid out in state with a guitar next to him, and the crowds were filing past. There was a lot of excitement outside of people trying to crash the event, and there was tear gas being thrown around. It's on YouTube, I think, some of the clip of it. And then the Wailers started playing with some of Marley's sons dancing just next to the coffin, with the I3s and Rita singing. And it was extraordinary. And Siaga gave a speech, and it was a most amazing funeral. He was then taken off to St Anne's to be buried. I couldn't go there because I had to rush to the airport. Yeah. Take the flight. No editing there. Nothing. So
you didn't even sleep. You turned around and went straight back, did you?
Straight back. Take back with the film under my arm. It would have been on film in those days.
Yeah.
And put it out on Newsnight that night.
That night?
Well, next night it would have been by then. But, whenever.
That's a fantastic story. That's just brilliant.
I was knackered by then.
Yeah.
But I love Marley. He was brilliant.
Yeah. Well, you got your disc there.
What else? Yes.
What else you got there?
What else we got? Sorry, I'm very pleased you found all these. This is from the same year, actually. Having done the Marley thing, I was then allowed to do a few more music bits. So that's
oh, right.
Oh, okay.
Is a car sticker from
car sticker.
America, they use sort of number plates. You can stick one of these on.
Oh, I see. You put it.
So you went on the tour. Was that a journalistic thing, or you?
It was for Newsnight, and
Newsnight.
I've been doing some other political films in the States, and I persuaded them to go down to Orlando, and they said, yes, you can talk to Jagger. I talked to Jagger. And we tried to film the concert we'd done. We couldn't plug into the equipment or film it to the side of the stage. It was pretty basic stuff, but it went down all right.
Yeah.
And then the next year, I got rung up by Alan Edwards. Do you remember him? Another
yeah, very well. Yeah. Lovely guy.
He said,
on Bowie business, probably.
That's right. He said, look, the Rolling Stones, can you do another piece on Newsnight? And I said, well, I'm sure the editor won't take two, just straight off. He said, well, look, they're coming to London, and Keith wants to be on it. He was very upset.
Because Mick had been on the first one.
Yeah.
Hey, that's classic.
Now, whether it was a PR ploy by Alan, I don't know. But that's what he told me, and I bought it. And he said, you've got to do Keith. You've got to do Keith. He wants to be on. He'd be really upset.
Because his mother has noticed that Mick's been on Panorama, and he's not on Panorama.
I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I said, okay, fine. And I had to see that. And he said, no, look, you did the Rolling Stones last year. We can't have on again. Don't be silly. I said, well, look, it's Keith. And he'd just been in, there was a drug stuff. He'd been in
Toronto,
Canada.
Yeah, Toronto. Yeah.
Hang on. I said, lots of angles we can talk about, which in fact I'd been told I couldn't ask you about. But
Yes.
And then Alan said, look, the only thing is you've got to be in Paris by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning at the Georges V Hotel. So it was in the evening in Newsnight office. I rang around and found a grumpy film crew. Said, oh, right. And they persuaded the editor to let me have a crew, and we rushed off to the airport, got on the first flight to Paris at, when it was, 6 in the morning, got to the Georges V in time, looked around waiting for Alan and Keith, and there was absolutely no sign of anyone there at all. I'm sure you know the experience.
Yeah.
And sat around waiting for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Crew getting very, very bad tempered. Oh, you drag us out of bed. What's going on? I was getting a bit panicked. And the phone rang. There was a reception said, "Oh, Monsieur Denselow, is there a call from you?" And it was Alan. He said, "Hello, Robin. Do you want the good news or the bad news?" I said, well, "The good news. Keith really wants to do the interview. He really, really, really wants to do the interview." I said, "What's the bad news?" "Oh, he's still in Munich."
There you go. I was going to say he's in a different country. I thought it might be had two land masses separated by water, but thankfully,
no, that was
Germany.
exactly.
It's quite near. It's quite handy.
Yeah.
Did it ever materialise? Presumably not.
He did. Yeah. He appeared.
Oh, he came
late that night, and I kept arranging venues. So I wanted to do him in a bar, but so it was quite noisy, so I could talk to him quietly without the entourage hearing what we were talking about.
Did he play up his slightly slurred, rather posh accent?
That's
Did he? Because Dave and I both interviewed him, and actually, when he's off camera, he's actually fairly quite normal. But when he gets on camera, he's sort of
he was
like,
very indeed. Talking about having a gun and all that. It was great. I think that was a great interview as well. So, but we got him.
So, apart from your Bob Dylan encounter, you've interviewed a lot of people. What's the most memorable interview you've ever done?
Good one. Very good one. I have to think about that.
We've put you on the spot there.
You have, I'm afraid, yeah. So I've always gotten very well with Van Morrison, bizarrely.
Oh, there you go.
Wow,
I was about to say.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Which leads me.
Oh, go on. This is good.
Seemingly extraordinary to this picture here, which is when we can you identify this guy?
Lift it
hold
up
it up a little bit.
You got to lift it up. I can't see. Okay.
Let's see.
Was that Lonnie Donegan as well?
Yep. And
well, Van who's that? Roy Orbison or something? No,
Lonnie Wood.
Oh, okay.
Right, okay, good. That's right.
And Chris Barber.
Oh, of
Fantastic.
course.
What was the event?
The event was December the 6th, 1999, 50 years on from the death of Leadbelly.
Right.
Yeah.
I was probably a quiet news day, and I was asked if there was anything musical going on I could think of. And
So the world's full of the 50th anniversary of Leadbelly. They're all talking
that's a
about
hot
that.
story. Hold the front page.
Exactly. And I read that Donegan and Van had done an album of skiffle songs together.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, maybe it's a bit of a long shot, but I'll try and get him on the programme. So I rang up Donegan's PR, I can't remember what it was, and thought that won't happen, but never mind, worth a try. And that evening I was at home, and the phone went, and an Irish voice, "Hello, Van here." And it was Van Morrison ringing me up, which I couldn't believe. He said, "Yes, brilliant idea, love it. Where should we do it? I said, "What do you mean?" He said, We'll do it. And it suddenly struck me they were going to do a session for me. And there was nowhere in television centre I could think of. So I rang around and I rang up the 100 Club and said, "Look, I haven't got any money. We didn't have a budget for things like that. Can I borrow the 100 Club for the afternoon for some filming that may or may not happen?" And they said, "Oh, yeah, well, fine, not. Well, okay, fine, come round." And so I took a film crew round there again in typical fashion. We arrived and set up some lights and waited to see if anything happened. And about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, suddenly down the steps came Lonnie and Van and Chris Barber and Ronnie Wood. I didn't know he was going to be there at all. And the whole
was there a pub involved in this? At any stage?
It was downstairs. Is the 100 Club downstairs? The bars.
No, I just wondered if they'd been in the pub on the way there. Or did they picked up Ronnie Wood on the way?
If it involves Ronnie Wood, it's usually 8 pints.
I never told you coming. And they said, "Okay, here we go," and they sat on stage and sang about 5 or 6 Leadbelly songs. Absolutely amazing. And did interviews, and Van did a lovely, great interview about Leadbelly and life and times and the rest of it. It was absolutely charming. And then they all went off, and no one mentioned, contracts or anything else, or what's going to happen to the music or anything like that. Oh, great idea. Thanks a lot, mate. Very good of you. Great. Fantastic. So I had to rush back to the television centre and had to go out that night because it was the actual 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
And I probably had about 6 minutes at the end of the show. I've no idea. And I had to wham the stuff together. And it went on Newsnight that night. But that was probably my most exciting day in television.
Can I just say it wouldn't happen in the BBC nowadays?
No, I think not. No.
I think not. Nobody will say at lunchtime, tell you what, we'll do the 50th anniversary of Leadbelly. And I'll get Van Morrison. It's absolutely extraordinary.
The interview I was most proud of, because I knew he was supposed to be very grumpy. I'd seen him many times, sometimes brilliant, sometimes not brilliant.
Yeah. And
after that, when he did another show, I was invited to Belfast to see him. And I think it was another Leadbelly thing he was doing. And as long as you talked about Leadbelly and the rest of it.
If you talk about Leadbelly, it's fine. It's talking about Van Morrison that's the problem.
Exactly.
Then it's very, very resentful and curmudgeonly.
Yeah. So I was very pleased with that one.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
So what's your what's have we talked to you about this? What's your greatest record ever made then? Is it Leadbelly? Go on.
First.
Go on, yeah, go on.
Sorry, I just told you about Africa.
All right, go on.
Yeah, go on. Absolutely.
Africa. I'm very fond of Africa. I remember we went on a trip to see
we went to Mali, see Tamani Jabati. Yes. How long ago is that?
Oh, I have no idea. I have to look at my cuttings though.
That would have been about, I can remember that's for Word, wasn't it, Dave?
It was, yeah.
Was it about 2008, something like that?
It might have been. That
sounded a wonderful trip.
And Robin and I both had the same experience, that we were around at his house and in one very African night where it was really dark.
Yeah.
And he took us one by one into the garden and played while talking to us. And so you just couldn't see anything. You just hear this noise. This fabulous music.
Amazing, wasn't it?
Interspersed. I've got a recording of it somewhere.
Have you? Oh, fantastic.
And it was an absolutely unique experience to be in that situation with somebody like that. It's extraordinary.
Absolutely.
Anyway, because everybody would write about that. That's a really original.
Yeah, how to make it a unique,
personal thing. It's a unique experience.
Yeah.
Everyone would think this is absolutely brilliant copy.
Yeah. So go on. What were you going to say, Robin?
A couple of quick African things. That's all right.
Yeah.
Which I've discovered in the garage. First of all, there's this, which I found on the floor, which is a 10,000.
Can you hold it up a bit?
Hold it up. But
10,000. Oh, okay.
10,000 News Irish note. A picture of Mr. Mabuto on the front.
Oh,
yes.
Lovely.
Which I think I picked up when I was with Kabila and his guys. They were marching on Kinshasa when Mabuto was being chucked out. And I've got this album, which I also found, which is Nwamba Makiada, ele TPOK Jazz, candidate Nabiso Mabutu, which I don't know where I got it at all. I probably bought it in Camden Market, but I'd like to think it was on that same trip, and I bought it from some dusty African town, because Nwamba Makiada is in fact the name of Franco, the greatest guitarist in the African history.
Oh, right.
He looks like this. That's the book about him by Colossus. And this was the election album that was put out for Mabutu, which was Candidate Mabutu. It's called Our Candidate Mabutu for the 1984 election, where Mabutu was the only candidate, so he was likely to win. Rather fine dance record came out, which was supposed to be distributed free to the people of the Congo, or the Zaire as it then was. Whether it was or not, I have no idea. But So
what's happened to African music in the light of technology of late? Because it used to be the cassette was the kind of main music carrier. Is it still?
There are still cassettes out there, yeah, but yeah, very much so. Yes, yes.
Right. So it still is.
And just one other African thing, which I actually found this morning, which is from Mr. Baaba Maal.
All right.
Yes.
He's like Baaba Maal, which is a box set that came out in 2005, and he was recording for Palm Pictures, Chris Blackwell's label after Island. And I was asked to go and they wanted something to dress it up. So I was asked to go and make a film about Baaba in Senegal. So I took off a Newsnight cameraman and we wandered around Senegal. And one day, it was a lovely trip. We were filming at home in Podor by the river and filming his shows. And he said, right, tonight we're going to Selibabi. And I said, well, I looked on the map. I said, no, you're not going to Selibabi. It was silly. I said, where's Selibabi? It's across the river in Mauritania, which had a rather tough government in those days that certainly didn't like the BBC. I said, we haven't got visas. We'll get arrested. They won't let us through anyway. Forget it. You go by yourselves and we'll join you. See you tomorrow. He said, no. And Baaba got cross the first time I'd seen him. He said, you are coming with me to Selibabi. I am a Fulani, which is the local tribe. The Fulani territory extends into Selibabi. Yeah. This is Selibabi Fulani territory. You're coming with me into Fulani territory. It is my territory. There are no borders. So I said, okay, fine. I had to do it. So at night we went down by the river and got a canoe across the river into Mauritania.
No! That's fantastic.
And his crew had meanwhile gone around and set up, and then bumped across the desert through to this town of Selibabi in southern Mauritania, where he started playing in the town square, an amazing show which we filmed. And at about 3 a.m, the police arrived. Said, okay, it's gone too long. I'm going to close it down. And by the way, who are you? I thought, oh, shit, it's terrible. And I said, oh, don't worry, I'm with the band. I see Baaba said, quick, get in the car, drive back to Senegal now. So he got in the car and hightailed it out of town, leaving the band behind, and belted back over the river to Senegal before the police realised we'd been there. So
oh my God.
Filming musicians in Africa, you don't see these guys playing at Hammersmith Odeon or, wherever it happens to be. And it's very nice, or WOMAD, and it's a very nice experience. But
on home turf.
Seeing people in Africa is...
it's the Wild West. And
absolutely.
It's just a different experience. They're treated very different. You see where the music comes from.
Yeah.
Baaba was treated like a god. I mean, it was extraordinary.
Yeah. Oh, it's wonderful.
I was thinking about that time when we were in Mali, and I haven't been to Africa or anything like as many times as you have. But the thing that struck me was the proliferation of mobile phones, which had just kind of taken over the world.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And we went for a long drive out of Bamako to be taken to the site of where a legendary battle had taken place hundreds of years earlier. We drove for a couple of hours. Do you remember this, Robin?
I do, yeah.
We were going up a mountain, and I thought, we're going to be way beyond the reach of any kind of contact here. And my phone goes off in my pocket. I answer it. It's Andrew Harrison, who doesn't even know I'm out of the country. He goes, yeah, do you remember the code for the office? I'm trying to get in. And I thought that was just absolutely extraordinary that you could do that.
Did you say I'm on the top of a mountain in Africa?
I did say I can't talk long. I'm in Mali, But it's the idea that signal reaches those places. They must have massively changed the lives of traveling musicians and so forth.
Totally, absolutely. Yeah.
That's right.
Amazing.
So, what were you going to say was your greatest record ever made then?
Oh, I find it impossible question to answer.
It is impossible.
That's why we ask
impossible.
I like so many different sorts of stuff. I mean, my greatest record one day will be different from my greatest.
Completely, it always is.
That's fine.
It was Marvin Gaye for a long time, and that I noticed looking through when people ask me for things. At the moment, and then for a long time, let's just think. I suppose because I've been doing all this folky stuff, my current one. My old favourite from way back would be this.
Oh, of course. Yes, we can't go wrong with that.
Fixture on this show. Yes.
What?
That's been mentioned several times.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's a record that almost didn't come out.
Exactly. Yes.
Is that the one that Richard Williams was the guy who heard the tapes?
It's when Richard joined. He said, "What's Richard Thompson up to?"
Yeah.
And they made a record. We're not going to put it out.
Yes.
Just amazing.
Either that one, or I suppose if I was being super historical, it would also be after this one.
Oh, Leadbelly, of course.
Which is Leadbelly himself, which is the Smithsonian Folkways collection.
Right.
Without whom skiffle wouldn't have happened.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Van Morrison knew correctly, I think. Without whom blues rock wouldn't have happened. So everything we love, in a way, stems back to this guy.
Right.
He's recorded by Beach Boys, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Van Morrison,
Nirvana. Extraordinary number of people, wasn't it?
Yeah. Little Richard, Pete Seeger, Frank Sinatra, Tom Waits all did his songs. It's and he's great still. So I don't play him as often as I do Richard and Linda, but in terms of most influential records, I guess that's probably
right. Well, look,
absolutely.
Well, look, it's been lovely to talk to you, Robin. We apologise for getting you up early.
That's all right. It's only 10 o'clock now.
You give me musicians hours.
Word in Your Attic, a Zoom with a View.